let's start with this REST API. So that's what I said. I don't want to spend a lot of, see, even if I go to explain REST API, I might take 1 hour to explain. Okay. So whatever inside me, I keeps on vomiting it. So I don't want to do that. So just understand, API is an interface which basically communicates between a client and a server. Okay, is a middleman. Now this middleman has certain rules how you are going to get the request and send the response. Okay, so what happens? This is a client, and this is a server. Okay, these are the server's database and all. Okay, so it takes a request, okay, and sends back the response. Simple. And like in SQL and all, we do the CRUD operations. Similarly, in API, we do the CRUD operations. Means SQL, what we do in SQL, we basically do a select statement and fetch the data, right? And when you have to create, we use the insert statement and we insert the data into the table, right? We want to update, use the update statement, and we want to delete, we use the delete statement in SQL. Similarly, in API, we have the same CRUD operation where we do create, which is basically post, read, get, update is put or patch, okay, and delete is delete. Okay, and once we do those operations, obviously we want to get a response, and this is the request. Okay, so request will look like this, and the response, I'm not going into much detail. Okay, and when they send the response, it either is to say what was the status, where that did you got the right response, or is there was some issue in the traffic or anything related to your request. So 200, 201 is perfect. It's like, okay, 200 label are all okay. 200, 201, 202, all these are okay. Okay, 400 labels are all bad requests. Something was wrong. Okay, 500 means the server or something went wrong. Okay, it's not that the response, the request was wrong. It was maybe something went wrong. Maybe your program that you have written to call that particular request is wrong. Okay, so go through this. I don't want to spend much time here. Okay, and if you have any questions, obviously I'm there to explain. So I'm not going into the what is REST API and all. Now, what today we'll do is, first, there is one more, like say how to in Marketing Cloud. Okay, if you have to use API, okay, you have to learn API. The first and the foremost thing is to create the install package. Remember the word install package. Okay, so like say we want to build a journey through an API, right? For that also we require install package. In this blog, okay, where I click on the same, see, in the same blog for the REST API, okay, here, if you go down, I have given a reference to how to create a install package for, just with an example of for Journey Builder API. So you go to setup, from the setup, you go to install package, okay, and then you have to basically define the name and give the description. Okay, then you have to basically select what kind of component you are basically designing. Whether you're creating a marketing cloud app, that is different. We'll discuss some if we someday get a time. Okay, so most of the people use API integration. Okay, so you have to select, the next step is to select the API integration. Third, you need to select what kind of integration you want. So since you are developing API, okay, we want to call the API from Marketing Cloud itself. So we are doing server to server, where we use client ID and secret for authorization. This is related to authorization. Okay, so we'll select server to server, and then we need to define the scope. So here we were doing, this was built for Journey Builder. So we selected journey related read write scope giving to that user. These are the permissions that you can do via this API REST point. Okay, so those scopes you have to define, and obviously via Postman or some other things also you can hit that particular API and get now start building your API function blocks and all. Hmm. Anyway, I don't want to go again with this all because this is related to journey builder. Okay, so this was for install package. Well, you created an install package. Okay, and then uh, that install package will basically have those credentials, right? As I showed you, let me again go back. I haven't exposed it, but mm, a small point I need to mention here. When you create this install package, okay, after this, I didn't showed you the screenshot of that because that is against the violation because I'm exposing the client ID and client secret to the outside world, right? And similarly, after this, once this install package is created, it will give you what is the client ID, what is the client secret, okay, what is the REST API, SOAP API, authentication API. Okay, so those will be there. And now let me jump directly to our marketing cloud instance. And what I do, I don't want to expose like a lot of people you'll see when they're explaining REST API. Okay, what they do is they will sometimes by mistake, okay, or sometimes by I don't know what intention. Sometimes they copy paste their code and put it in the community to asking for help. Okay, but you are basically violating the security. Hmm. So remember that. So you should not basically write into your program, okay, that install package that's client ID, client server. We also at the beginning we used to do, but as we are now matured, we don't write in the code. Huh. So I created a install package data extension. I'm not going to show you what records are there, but I'm showing you the attributes. Okay. So API config, basically what is this for? This for my REST API, but I call it for a transactional API. So I might have given a name called transactional API. It will depend what I've written in the code. This will be unique to define which install package I have created. Okay. Then I have in the REST API, I have given the URL for the REST API. Okay. Client ID and client secret, authentication API, SOAP API, integration type, or that's also fine. Okay. So this is the attribute for the API. Okay. So if you have to just again going back here, okay. So if I just go back to this particular snippet here, okay. So if you see the API here, so this is the REST API, okay. So here why it is REST, this is written as REST. Hmm. If it's an auth, it will be written AUTH, authentication. Okay. If it is SOAP, it will be written as SOAP. So this will differ based on the different types of API. Okay. This is the marketing cloud API is hitting that particular server in marketing cloud. So it's pointing to a server address. Okay. And to distinguish every different business unit instance, your SOAP domains is basically your the jargon is tenant endpoint. Okay, people you have to whenever you discuss, you have to discuss the tenant endpoint, and this tenant endpoint is unique for every instance that you have for marketing cloud. Okay, so it presents maybe certain database, okay, that is pointing to your particular uh, stack. Okay, I don't want to go into that technicalities, but this is a tenant endpoint. Hmm. So this becomes your server address. Okay, this becomes your path. So go to the server and follow this path. Here the path is address v1 address email. Okay, this is the version of the like v1. V1 is the version of that API. So every time if they have to enhance their API, they have to basically keep on enhancing this path. Then you'll see in token we'll use v2 token. Okay, this is using the old version of the validate email. Huh. Now they have v2 token. Previously used to have v1 token as well. Okay, so this post is a verb, like what we say, what kind of operation you're carrying, that it defines. Okay, now you for authorization to client ID and client secret, we get the bearer token type and the access code. Fine. So if you have questions, you can ask me. Okay. Now I'm moving to the other one. So now these are the base.
Just so can I ask now?
Yeah, tell me.
Like the subdomain you were talking about, like one
Mhm.
tiny question, like when people use SAP, most of the time they use the professional company. So that
Ah,
time they will use their own domain, right? So
mm, SAP. See, SAP and what do you say?
I mean SAP, yeah.
This one is different. They are
Hmm.
using subdomain. Okay, so that's why nowadays people they don't talk this as talking in a totally in a API technical point. Okay, but in marketing cloud, let's not talk subdomain. It will create confusion with people. So this is tenant endpoint.
Okay.
Okay,
All right. Okay.
now consider this as to be as tenant endpoint. So tenant endpoint is you have marketing cloud. So if you log into marketing, it will be like msmc.s570305 ऐसा कुछ. Okay, then you
Mm-hmm.
say exact target, है ना? So EMEA region will have its own stack. APAC will have its own stack. Okay, so let's for example, if you just type trust uh, trust.salesforce. Okay, so trust.salesforce.com. Then you'll see. Hmm. Now, which application? So we are discussing Marketing Cloud, which is currently called engagement. There is one incident raised. Okay, anyway. So if you see here, these are all the different DB. So there's some incident going on. See, it's impacting. Maybe they are doing some maintenance or what, I don't know. Ah, okay. अरे, एक minute. My nowadays my laptop is going, something wrong is happening with my laptop. But anyway, so here you will see different DB. Okay, different regions. You can go from this to this particular trust.salesforce products here, and it will show you. This is like say, see, I said the different regions. So America, Asia Pacific, EMEA. Whatever you click, the DB will keep on changing. Hmm. So similarly, here what I was calling as a subdomain, okay, is
Mm-hmm.
basically the tenant endpoint.
Yes.
And
Okay.
it's based on the particular marketing cloud instance that you're working. So every
Mm.
instance will have its own specific endpoint.
Yeah. Cool.
Hmm. Now, yeah. So other one. So as I said, this particular endpoint has what kind of different endpoints will have. Let's say this is REST. Okay. So similarly, the same pattern will remain. This will be the same one. Okay. For all the API, it will be the same. Even for all the business unit also, it will be the same. Hmm. Not only for one business unit, it will be the same for all the business unit.
Mm.
Okay. So it will be now this is REST, the other one will be auth. So this auth is used to authenticate. Hmm. And then you will also have SOAP. Okay. So this will be your only this is going to change. It will be SOAP. Fine. So here, if you see here, I'm saying SOAP API, auth API, client API. So these are the, I'm just, if I copy this will only change, everything will remain the same. And I'm storing into that particular data extension as one of the record for every attribute. Understood? Hmm.
Mm.
So in my data extension, it will be like this. So, oh, let's go. Okay. What I'll do is एक एक client पे लेके आता. So if you, I don't want to show the data extension records because it will be against the policy. Okay. So these are all different attributes. Okay. So I can't make it okay bigger. Okay. So this will be one attribute. Okay. This will be another attribute. And then again, I'll have the client ID secret ऐसे करके I'm basically created one record. Okay, so this is what I'm storing here. I'm not going to show again. I'm saying I'm not going to show, but I can show you the methods. So today, as we'll be discussing, we'll discussing few of the methods. Okay, so here I gave my same like a similar name. Okay, so first, for every API to be authenticated, I told you like we need to have a authorization header with a bearer access token, right? So let's make this small. So what we need to have, authorization as a header. The token type has to be a bearer, okay? And you need to get the access token. And how you're going to get access token? Basically from the client ID and the secret. Okay, client ID and secret. You need to use these two combination and get the token. Okay, which normally expires within 20 minutes. Okay, every time it gets expired. And it's live for 20 minutes. Hmm. And for this, we need to basically hit the authenticate that URI. Okay, so we need to use a authenticated path to get the access token. Fine. Hmm. So here, what I did here, I created API methods. Okay. Normally, a lot of people will say these are not methods, guy. But see, I'm from a technical background, so I'm saying these are all methods. So I'm using v2 slash token. Okay, and this is to get the access token. Now, if I have to show you a collection, so you can download Postman. Okay, and from Postman also you can hit Marketing Cloud APIs. Okay, these are my tokens. Sorry, collection. So in my collection, I'm going to Marketing Cloud, right? So inside Marketing Cloud, I'm going to the REST API. Hmm. So so this is authentication SFMC token. If I have to get SFMC token, what I need, okay, let me show you an example. So let's say, let's copy this. Hmm. So this is here, I said auth, okay, this remains the same. This is the path, v2 token is the path, okay. This is the auth, and this is your tenant endpoint, okay, which I call it your subdomain. Fine. So this becomes your URL to hit the token. Okay. Somebody wants to say something now. What kind of body you require? So this is your body, basically your payload. Okay. So your payload will look like this. Okay. So everything in the REST API, we always have to understand JSON. Okay. So JSON is a JavaScript object, right? And this is a, when we say JavaScript, when we say, see, I can go, I don't want to jump here and there, but anyway, that's my habit. So JSON is basically JavaScript object notation. Okay. And this particular JSON means you need to have key value pair. This is the key, this is the value. So we always consider this to be a key value pair. Okay. So this we need to brand type, client ID, client secret, and account ID. So it's not mandatory to give the account ID. Even if you just pass these three values also, it will grant you the give if the your token say this API configuration is correct, client ID, then client secret is correct, you'll get the token. Now this will be your response. Okay, very less people talk about this. I have seen. Okay, so this is your response. So this part becomes your request. Okay, itna, this is your request. Fine. Let me make it a little big. So this part is called the payload, which is basically the body. Okay, payload body, and this is your URL. Okay, and since this is a JSON, okay, so our when we do the REST API call, okay, we need to pass this as a application JSON as a content type. Hmm. So here, if you go to the header section, you'll see this content type. This is also one of the parameter that you need to pass. It's called content type, and this will be application JSON because our body we are passing is in a JSON format. Okay. Now we are also receiving JSON format response. So these are response. So it will also give you a JSON object. Okay. It will definitely have the status code as well. Like I said, 200, 201. Here it has given the status code is written here. Okay. 200 means okay. Hmm. So they haven't posted here, but you might receive like when this JSON will come. Okay. So it might have, say, it will not only have this kind of graph, it might have different structure like this. Okay. And here you might have status. Mhm, status underscore code or something. Okay. Or is simply for simplicity status code colon. Where's the colon? Right. So it will might give you 200. Okay. Comma. Then you'll have response. Okay. Colon. Everything is key value pair. Okay. And this might be an array. Okay. So not everybody explains this. I don't know why, but anyway, they maybe imply that everybody understands the format. So this is the response that you might get. Okay. And we are only focusing on the response. Okay. And inside this response structure, this is an array. And inside this array, we want to get the first item inside the array. And from the first item, we want to get the access token. Okay. Here, you also have the token type, right? The second item attribute is the token type, which is especially says this is a bearer token. So I've seen a lot of people hard coding bearer when they have this access token. You don't have to hard code, you have to just basically concatenate. Okay, it gives you a time when it's going to expire. Hmm. And also what scopes you have defined. Like I was showing you, like what all scopes read write operations you giving the permission to the user based on this client ID and client secret. Those are also given as part of this particular response. Fine. Now, yeah, again jumping to marketing cloud. Okay. Uh, Let me go to code resource. Right. So as I said, I never use cloud page for business purposes. If I'm learning, I'll simply do the code resource. So here's the code. Okay. And let me copy this code. Okay. And let me duplicate this window for visual code. You know, following what I'm saying?
Yes, Susie, I have one question.
Mhm.
Like, this is what we do using a postman, right? And we need to do the API
See,
call.
those people who are not comfortable with SSJS, they go to
Yeah.
Postman.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm just
But
trying to
yeah, see
think the
what I'm
reverse
doing is
way. Yeah.
yeah. So you can do via Postman. I'm not saying that you should not do. Okay.
No,
It will
no.
Postman will give you more flexibility learning. Huh?
Hmm. Hmm.
Okay, but see, you have to basically has to give those this all these parameters here, right? And like I'm working for some organization, it's not my company, and if I'm storing this one, it might like I might leave the company and you're doing a postman, then it's a violation, right? So
Hmm.
normally, yeah, for sandbox or some area you might, but production, I think those people who advocate using postman, I don't advocate. Okay, it's against the policy for me. Because you're
Hmm.
exposing the all everything, you know. And if this postman you have a public workspace, and other people can also violate it, no? So
Yeah, yeah.
for
No, no.
learning
My
purpose,
question
fine.
is,
Hmm.
yeah, it's not like my question. I'm just trying to understand or, connect those dots. Like
Hmm.
whatever I was trying to do or achieve using
Hmm.
Postman, the same thing I'm doing via a code, SSJS, right? Am I correct?
Exactly. See,
Right.
why
That's it.
me? Okay, forget me. Why Greek also advocates SSJS is because those people, if you want to build marketing cloud applications, right? I want to build via SSJS. AMP is too lengthy, too codey, too many things. Okay, so
I
once you
can't
start
learn. Yeah.
learning from AMP to SSJS, you will start liking SSJS more.
Yeah,
Hmm.
true, true.
Like
Like
say,
I am
see,
understanding.
like
Yeah.
yeah, like say I'm doing a data extension retrieve. What you just need to do, so data extension retrieve, in your main code, you just try to need this two line of code. One is the init
Mm.
function, one is the retrieve function, right? But if you see, for access token, I have written more than 160 line of code here, right? Now everybody will say, "Bhai, just for access token, you write so much of code. What is the use?" Huh? I'm building a reusable component, right? And I don't want to write the same code again and again everywhere. I want to keep it in some place. I want to make it reusable. So for the first time when you're developing, it might look bulky and complex, but later on, once you get adapted to this practice, you'll see, oh, this is much useful than any other thing. Hmm. And a lot of people use Postman. I would not blame them, but I have a feeling that they do not know how to write a code in SSJS to do the REST API. And if you do with AMP, oh, it's a pain, right? And I have shown you, like in when I was doing AMP enablement and I was doing the SOAP API, I was frustrated. We took more than 3-4 hours to in that session. Huh?
Yeah.
But in SSS, it's like for me, it's like, oh, easy, fine. So anyway,
Mm.
mm, say for a token, what I do is why I'm using data extension retrieve, because I'm storing all the client ID, client secret, URI, and methods and everything inside a data extension, right? Now, just think about this. If I have to build this line, I have to get this whole line, right? So what I've done in my database, in my data extension, I've stored in a very different format. I've done this, okay? So here it goes, this part is stored in the install package data extension, okay? This one is stored in the method token, sorry, method API method data extension. Huh? So I'm going to just retrieve this also. I have to hit the data extension twice, right? So I'm not going to repeat the functionality again and again. So I'm reusing it to get certain things from certain data extension. So for that, what I did was I wrote a generic function, okay? And I'm passing a parameter. And with this parameter, I'll show you how I'm passing those values later on, okay? So I think I've discussed this in some other videos also, okay? And I have simple operator to define, like I want to get the access token, right? So if I want to get the access token path, I need to know what is the name of that method name. And from the method name, I'm going to get the URL for that particular method. Okay. So this is the filter condition through which I'm looking through all these records. Okay. And among this record, I want this first record. So that for that reason, I have used filter operation, saying that the method name equals to, here the method name equals to request SFMC token. Then it will give me this particular value. Fine. I know at first it might looks complex, but one get you people get used to it. Ah, you will love this. And this part of the catch, I have created a video. I didn't want to spend all this time here explaining how you do exception handling. I've created already uploaded yesterday. I think it's premiered yesterday only. Huh. So I've explained how this try and catch can be done, and technical people will definitely get a lot of benefit of this try and catch. I have even people just used to do catch. I have even included throw. Hmm. Moving on. So in let's focus on this particular part of the block. Okay. So I have a function called access token. Okay. And then from the API config D, basically this data extension mm, this one, install packages. Okay, from this data extension, I want to get the values for, let's say, with these properties. Basically, the properties is access token के लिए मैंने क्या बोला था? Get SFMC token. Okay, so from this it will get the client ID and client secret, and from this it will get the path. I'll explain this as well. And then this is not necessary, but good to have. But it's good you keep practicing having fetching the MID for the business unit. Okay, and then I have from here, I have already retrieved the data extension records in this particular variable called API config DE, and I'm assigning those value. Client ID equals to API config 0 client ID. Okay, it means it will basically fetch me client ID attribute. Okay, get the value and then assign it to this particular variable. Similarly to client secret, this is general for all contexts. You have to follow this. So I'm not storing it. I'm hard coding it. And now from the API method, what I'm doing is this API method. Okay, this sorry. So this auth API, as I said, for token, you need the auth API, right? So as I showed you here, this was coming. This URL is coming from auth API, right? Base URI. So here is the auth API. Okay, content type always has to be application JSON, and in certain contexts you have to use UTF charset 8. Okay, charset 8, that special characters handling. You can append it here. I don't want to go that in detail. So what I said was, whenever you basically uh, do the uh, okay, I'm jumping here and there, but here I'm basically, see, I'm doing HTTP post. Okay, when I'm doing an HTTP post, what you need to have basically here is you need to have, okay, the URL, okay, which will be similar to this one. Okay, almost similar to this one, only the endpoint is going to change. This is the first parameter. Okay, and your second parameter is the content type, which is basic content type, which is basically application JSON. And the third content is the headers. So the headers is this one, basically the payload. You can consider this as a payload, which will have client ID, client secret, and all. When you do HTTP post, then you get this full response. Okay. Now I'm returning that response, and since this is a function, I have to call this function somewhere. Okay. And also inside this function, see, I'm using function one here. Okay, for the data extension retrieve. So I'm using here function called data extension retrieve. This one. Okay, the same function with different. This is the parameters that I'm passing. With the same function, I'm calling uh, another here also the same function with different parameters. So second parameter I'm using here to get the API methods. Okay, to get the API config, I'm using the same function with different parameters. Fine. Now going to this is the main function where I'm basically having all this configuration. So once all these functions you have basically modularized, okay, this every functions, anything goes wrong, you always will focus on the main function rather than going to the this pre-built these functions that you have built if everything is correct. So most of the things are not hard coded. If you see here, except the function name, forget about this. Okay, forget about the catch block. If you just concentrate this part, okay, so let's copy this scope function. Let me copy this to make it simple for you all. Okay, so if you just see, and if I just omit this catch block, okay, if you see, I'm not hard coding a single thing also. So very less chance anything goes wrong here. So you don't have to go and modify your code again and again and try a lot of trial and error. This is isolated function, right? Now, anything goes wrong, this is your main part. Okay. So different functions I've explained. So I'm just copying this main. I'll consider this to be a main function when I'm doing everything here. So let's focus in this area. Okay. So here, the first thing what I'm doing is to retrieve the data extension, I need to pass the property, right? So if you just see, say, if you go to SSJS, okay, so inside SSJS, this official documentation, I'm going to data extension function. What is data extension function here? Okay, and I'm basically doing data extension retrieve. And more related to rows that retrieve. Okay, so if I'm to retrieve this one records, I need to retrieve a record. Okay, so this is this part, this two part, okay, equals to, say, you might not grasp at a glance, but slowly and steadily you all will pick up what I'm saying. Okay, this three line of code is similar to this line of code. Okay, so here what I'm doing, I'm using simple operator with API config as a property. Simple operator equals and the value equals to transactional API. Okay, which means if you see this filter, it means property equals to API config. Okay, simple operator equals to this and value equals to, okay, so this. So this line filter I'm using here. In my same, like if I have to make in the same line, you'll see similar things here. Okay, it's similar to this. So different line, I'm using the same line. Okay, so this line, okay, just I gave my own variable name. They have used the variable name as filter. Okay, now this one, birthday dot data extension init birthday, right? So here, what I'm using here, if you see here, init, I'm passing the init value, okay, and passing the filter value. So this is what I'm doing here. Okay, data extension config. So this is the init. So if I have to go to that particular blog where I've written here, this one. So this is the init. Okay, so data extension dot init. Okay, equals to, then is giving the value here and the simple operator. Okay, so I'm just breaking down. I don't want to make it complex, but try to understand what I've written here. Okay, at the top is similar to my own way of writing. Similar to what Marketing Cloud suggests you need to write in this three line of code. Okay, so we were focusing more on getting the token. So first one, with this two line of code, let me just again not mix everything. Okay, I know it's a little difficult to understand at one glance, but anyway, I'm trying my best to help you all understand. Access token. Let me again paste it here. Okay, so this is for the simple operator function. Okay, this for the init function and the full line of code with giving the init and the filter condition. Fine. So these two block will basically retrieve you the uh, client ID, okay, client secret, and that authentication API and all. Okay, these two block will do that. But I have to call the function, and that function is being called in access token. Okay, so these two will be defined. Okay, now similarly, these two will define you this. It will give you the v2 slash token method URL. Okay, So these two block is defined for. That's why I called it this as a API method token, and this is the API method token with a filter condition and the data extension customer key. Fine. So forget about this now for a while. Maybe you'll understand slowly. Okay. And then I started calling the function. Which function I called? Access token. Right. So this is a function called access token, which I had defined here, calling access token. Okay. When this function is getting called, it is calling two different functions and getting the data extension retrieve and getting me the records. Okay. And after that, it has a HTTP post, and whatever response it is getting, I'm returning that value back. So the response I'm storing into access token results. Following it till now? Any confusions? Confusions there might be, but are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now, once I get the response would be similar to this. Okay. So what I did was I want to break the response because I'm more focused getting into these two. One is the access token, other one is the token type. Okay. I'm less bothered about the expires in and the scope. I'm neither bothered about status code. If something goes wrong, obviously status code might help you. Okay. So here I'm getting the status code. If I have to print, well and good. If I don't have to print, but I'm storing here, uh, you can store it into even to a data extension. Okay. And I'm more focused with the response. As I said, the response is an array. Okay. This part is an array because it has a square bracket. Remember, when there is a square bracket, it means an array object. Okay. So since this is an array, and inside the array for this access token, I always know that it will only send me one array object. Okay. It will not have multiple items. It will have only one item. So I took response equals to access token result, response, and then the first item. Hmm. And when I see this first item, it means this block. Okay. Copy this, and this is the block I'm asking when I'm saying this line. Access token result, response 0. Fine. Now, since this is more like a JSON structure, right? So if let me just copy this. Hope you understand. Okay, let me open new tab and paste it here. Okay, so this is my JSON structure. Okay, so from this JSON structure, what I'm doing is I'm using platform function parse JSON. Okay, parse what? The response. The response is this full thing. When I'm saying parse, I'm saying convert this JSON object into an array. Okay, so then what I can do in an array, okay, I'm doing dot access token. So here, access token is this. This is the item. Hmm. Now this is converted into like this is becoming a response. Okay, and response is converting this array this way. Okay, the first item is uh, access underscore. Where is the underscore token? Okay, token, and the other one is token type. I'm focusing more on this. There is also expires in, okay, and there's also scope. So this will also be the part of the array. Okay, expires in, though I'm not focused in all these things, but anyway, this is the way of my sessions. So this is how it is getting. Okay, response, and this line response is all this. Now access token, I'm assigning this access token. So I'm saying access token equals to, when I'm saying this line, platform dot access token, I'm saying from here, go to this response and give me the access token. Okay, give me this access token, and that's what I'm printing here. Okay, a little bit this array and other things. Don't for this is just for demonstration. Don't take it literally. Okay, so JSON parse means it is basically from the structure, make it a structure similar to this. That's what is being said. Okay, so I'm getting the access token and the token type, and I'm printing token type plus give a space. Okay, because if you remember, when we need the bearer token, we need to have a space as well. Okay, when you want to pass it to call any uh, REST API, you need to pass this authentication. If you remember the blog that I said here. Okay, so here I'm passing the authorization. Okay, so for the authorization, when you pass the authorization for the REST API, you need to have bearer space and the access token. Okay, so you need space. That's why here, when I'm basically yeah, so here I'm basically giving a space. Okay, so let's jump to this. Okay, the same code I copied there. Okay, this is the same code. Data extension retrieve, simple operator. Okay, access token, and then my try catch main try catch block where I'm assigning all these values to defining the filter and initialization. Okay, and then I'm calling the access token, and here I'm printing the value. Okay, so if I just publish this, you see, you get the access token which can be printed. Fine. Understood till now?
Yes.
Okay. Now we are discussing how we make this. So for every REST API, let's say I have so many REST APIs here, right? So if you even if you see in the Postman, this is the REST API for get user. There's a lot of address, assets, okay, audit. There are number of APIs here. Okay, so if I keep on scrolling, there will be many APIs. And for every API, you require the SFMC token. That is a must, right? So would I keep on basically uh, writing a code to get the access token again and again? Definitely not, right? So for that, okay, for me, this function basically returns me the access token, and I can use it anywhere. Following me?
Yes.
If I write this function, so there are so many API calls. There are so many APIs. Okay, so for every API, I need access token. So what I can do, I can use this function anywhere inside my code, right? So I can copy this line of log. Oops, for access token, just the access token function, just this much line of code. Okay, and I can utilize everywhere. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm just using this function. See, this is the function block. Okay, for access token. And inside this, I've written all the functions. What I'm going to do in Marketing Cloud is uh, inside SSJS REST API. Okay, I can create a from here. I can go and create a code snippet. Okay, I can go and create a code snippet, and I can paste that particular code here. Okay, so similarly, what I've done here is for access token, I have already built the code. So you see here. So here, the same function I've copied and pasted it here. Huh. If you want to validate, which is a lot of people might later say that he might have copied something else. But if you see this is the same code. Okay, in another window, I'll show you. near the field they will say chat GPT. Okay, so this is the same code. Hmm. Access token, data extension retrieve, data extension retrieve. Okay, and then the HTTP post and return the access token result. Even the variable name I keep across the same. Hmm. Now this code I use it here. And another important thing what I do always keep on doing is, if you see the property inside the, whenever you are saving this code snippet, okay, so let's say access token, I even give the customer key also, not the system generated one, but I give my own with the whatever I give the name, the same name I copy it for the customer key. Okay, not 1 2 3 4 something which I can memorize. I can memorize the name. Okay, so I keep the same. Fine. Hmm.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
similarly, not only the access token, the data extension retrieve that I was talking about the first function that I've written, right? When I was showing you this code here, this first code where I have 161 line, I have a break up anything. So this one also a reusable function. Okay, the symbol operator is also a reusable function. So what I've done is, for them also I have created, see, data extension retrieve, the same function I copied and pasted here. Okay, you just need to have, remember this line, script and this closing script, like here. Okay, if I just close this, so you need to have this script and script. Okay, it doesn't have much of a, don't make it complex, just simple a function. Hmm, when you are testing especially. So similarly, for simple operators, I created a code snippet and pasted this code. Fine. Now, if I go to Postman, okay, so we discussed SFMC access token. Okay, so next one is to, not the info or base URL. Okay, so I think let's go to the user info. So for the user info, again, see, if you see this, first you understand this is a get method. Okay, CRUD operation get. Okay, so remember this is a get and this is my URI. Yeah, let me take this one. Let me open a new one. So if you see this is your URL, and your URL, I said this is my first part. So v2 version 2 slash user info. This is my path. Okay, this remains the same. So I'm not going to repeat it again, right? So this part I'm going to store in my main API config and this into my path data extension. So if I go back and show you the data extension for the path, so the second function v2 user info. So this is the one. Okay. So this is get user info v2 user info. Hmm. Now I need to build similar code for get the user info, right? So as I did for access token, if you see this, both will look more or less similar. The function name is get user info. Okay. Similarly, like what I did here was data extension API config, data extension API method. Similarly, data extension API config, data extension API method. Well and good, right? The only third part here is to get the this method URI. Okay, so this one is for token, because obviously to get the user info, I have to pass the token also. So first I have to retrieve the token, right? So यहाँ पे what we are doing? We are doing the data extension retrieve. Okay, here I'm directly calling access token. The previous function I'm calling inside this function. Okay, so I'm getting the access token result, parsing them, and basically here I'm basically assigning the access token type and access token. I'm retrieving is going to a data extension. Sorry, a variable. Fine. Then I'm adding uh, headers as authorization and values as token space access token, token type and access token. Okay. So this will be my block here. So when you do a get, you need to pass the URI. So here, how it will be URL. Okay. Then the URL. Then you have to have the header. So is a gate. You do so for the gate we do not have to pass the what you say payload, right? It's simply a gate function. So you sometimes you have to pass, then it will be a query parameter. We'll discuss some other day. Yeah, you just need to pass the headers, okay, and the values. So these three you can pass. So here I pass the URI. Okay, see, remember the comma. So this will be the REST API. It's not a auth URL. Okay, so here it will be a REST API, not a auth. Okay, and this method URL will be this the user info. So the user info has to be method URL will be that what was that v2/user info. Hmm. Header name is this authorization, and the header values should be token type, that is bearer space access token. Fine. Hmm. So यहाँ पे let's say yeah, why this is auth is because it is inside the auth. So to get the user info, I'm using the auth REST API. That's why here I'm using the auth API. Okay, where is that one? This one. Okay, that's why this is auth. If this would in REST, so for that, obviously you need this collection to understand which API you're calling. Okay, so this auth, that's why I called it auth. Hmm. So for this also, I created a similar function. Okay, and I added it under this content blocker get user info. Hmm. So same here, the name and the customer key is the same. Okay, and I wrote the same function here. Fine. Now I want to get the user info details. Hmm. So for that, let's say if I have to do in the code resource, so get user info. Hmm. Now those functions I have to call, right? Those content blocks I have to call. So these are the content blocks. I have what I need to get the user info. First, I need to have the data extension, which will retrieve records from data extension, right? For simple operators, a function, I need to get this particular code block also. Okay. For access token, I need to get this also. And to get the user info, I need to get this. For different code snippets I can pull. So how I'm going to pull these code snippets into the code resource using content block by key platform dot function content block by. Okay, let me copy this. And JavaScript function here. Okay, so if you see what I'm doing, where content. Anyway, I'm saying content is basically copying that code and pasting it here. That's what it does when you say content block. Okay, so I said try to maintain a different variable name. Okay, when I'm writing a lot of codes, so copy paste. I made the mistake, but let's say this is for practical applications. I'm just giving some unique variable. Okay, it does not affect anything, but keep in mind to make it unique. It doesn't affect. If you keep the same, it doesn't affect anything. Okay.
So
So
how will
first is the data extension with
common variable will store different information then
Hmm?
like if we are having same name for every variable.
See, when you're doing content call by content block, वो क्या करता है? If in the runtime, okay, let's say I'm copying this content, okay, it will copy and paste it here, replaces this line with that particular code. So वो तो this not a basically क्या कहते हैं translator interpreter may confuse it. It will this goes by line. Okay. So एक लाइन हुआ नेक्स्ट लाइन पे जाएगा. So
so जैसे
having the same
फर्स्ट
name
टाइम
it
उसने
will.
कंटेंट में ये स्टोर कर लिया एंड देन सेकंड टाइम पे वो स्टोर कर लेगा.
Hmm. So when this page is rendering, it will have this, it will bring this block, content block by this particular by key, because I'm using key, not by ID. Okay, and it will paste that code here. Now it will move to the next line. Content कंटेंट ही है तो भी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं, सिंपल ऑपरेटर का कोड यहाँ पे पेस्ट कर देगा.
Yes. Yes.
सो यहाँ पे ये वैलिडेट ईमेल एड्रेस का जरूरत नहीं था. सो that's fine. I just need all these 4 functions. One is data extension retrieve, simple operator, access token, and user info. So see, I said this block. This block, this particular line of block basically defines the data extension retrieve for API config. Fine, which will bring client ID, client secret, authentication, SOAP API, REST API, blah blah blah. Now this second block, a simple operator, this is basically for token. So this two is for API SFMC token. V2 token जो मुझे लेके आना था method URL से, that it will bring. So second one is basically passing the data extension customer key. Okay. So now you people will understand here. So this is the name of the data extension. If I go to properties, I keep the name and the properties always the same. And how you can do this? You can't do it from contact builder data extension. You have to go from email studio. Okay, from the email studio, you go to data extensions, and from there you create. It will allow you to give this kind of a external key. But from data extension, if you, nowadays it doesn't give. Okay. Anyway, so this becomes for the token for the method URL. Okay. Now, obviously, this one is for the install package, client ID, client secret. This is for token. Now I want another method also, which is called this one. So if I go to methods, I also obviously I require the token, and I also require the get user info. You know? So you'll see here what parameter. So first one is request SFMC token, right? So you'll see I'm saying request SFMC token. Now second one is get user info. Okay, so this is get user info and sending me v2 user info. अब ये सब मुझे जो जो पैरामीटर्स चाहिए मैंने कॉन्फ़िगर कर दिया, right? Now all this is only just a simple configuration. If you have to just give it to some user, like you build all these functions and ask them to configure. Okay, they just need to go and configure this only. Just they need to change the name. Based this token will also remain the same. They just need to come to this line and just change the name. Okay, I'll show you in some another example. This line, like get user info ke jagah mein, if I just replace it with validate email, then it will pass me this email address, this particular method URL. So for the developers, they don't have to worry too much. Okay, so here we are doing user info. Okay, and passing this simple operator to retrieve the value and give it back. And these 2 lines of code will work wonders, right? So you just need to have that function call, which we have written in this content block. So get user info. ये सब तो पहले हमको paste हो गया. Now it will just call this function. Inside the function, obviously there are a lot of functions. One is the access token. Okay, inside the access token there is data extension retrieve and all. Okay, here also you have data extension retrieve. जो मैं यहाँ पे दिखा रहा था यहाँ पे with this one. So user info, right? Get user info. So here, if you just focus on get user info function, I'm passing the API config. Okay, simple. अगर इसको, if I have to make it simplified, I have a habit of writing giving long variable names. But okay, I don't want to change. I'm storing somewhere. But anyway, for this purpose, no problem. I can change it. I'm not going to use it, but just to make it very simple for you people to understand. So इसको करो API info. Okay, इसको say token, can give any, not a big name. Okay, and we say user info. So you're just passing the data extension value properties into this. And then for access token, call the access token, retrieve the access token, and store it. Fine. Token type and access token, retrieve, store it. Okay, and define the header values, headers and values. Okay, authorization, token. Okay, now from here you need to get the get user info value, v2 / user info method URL lo store it here. Okay, this auth base URI. Okay, then from method URL user v2. So यहाँ से in this particular line, you're basically getting this line. Up to this. Okay. Yeah. Huh. From here, you're getting this one. This one here. Okay. And that's why I'm concatenating here auth plus method name. So this will become like, if I have to show you here, so when I'm concatenating, this will become this plus this. So your URL will be this. Ultimately, obviously, this will be a URL. Okay. Header names. Header names is just one, that is authorization. And the header values is the token plus access token. Okay. Now, now you slowly understand how you are going to make it reusable. Okay. So user info. So this was already published, but anyway, I'm going to save and publish. And if I just click here, okay, you see now it's quite difficult to understand. But anyway, if I show it from Postman request, so get user info. So this is similar to this how they have shown. So similarly, you have the status code, and then it has exp, ISS, user info, and all. So I don't want to go. I'm just showing how you can reuse the component. I'm not going to explain the response. Okay, it will take long time to explain all this. Anyway, so next I'm going line by line. Whatever I'm getting. So interesting is to another one is to validate email address. Okay, so here if I just copy again, this is the last one and not go any further more to explain this. So here this is your URL. Okay, and this is the REST URL, REST API I'm calling. So I'm defining this into two different data extensions this way. So this is the first part and this is the second part. Well and good. Okay, now header, obviously I require those authentication and all. This is the body because this is a REST post. So remember this as well. So when you're doing a REST and this, okay, so this is the body and this is the method type, right? Post. Okay, so this is post. The verb is post. This is the body. Okay, and if I want to see the response, okay, now it is my. Uh, uh, so this will be a response, but obviously they haven't added those status code and all. So obviously for demo, they have done it better. Well and good. So this is your base URI. Okay, this is the method or the path. This is the body. Okay, this total becomes your request. Okay, and this is the part of your response. It will also have status code and other things as well. And this becomes your response. Fine. So let's go to the data extension. So user info ho gaya. So obviously here is the one validate address. Okay, validate address, address v1, validate email, right? So here, so v1 validate email, and this v1, what I'm saying, this is basically versioning. In somewhere you will see v2. It means it used to have v1 as well, and they have basically deprecated it. Okay, nobody can now use that particular REST API. Okay, so here is your data extension. Obviously, I need the SFMC token. Without that, I can't call this particular function. Okay, so similarly, to validate the token email, right? Validate email validation. So similar function, I said validate address, and I create a function. Similar, I can have access token function. Well and good. So let's go थोड़ा सा dissect कर देते हैं. So till here, I'm calling access token, retrieving the token and storing it. Okay, and after that, I assign the headers and the values. Okay, here I'm retrieving the REST API, okay, from the API config. Again, using a data extension retrieve and store it. Okay, again, data extension retrieve and store it. What I'm storing here is this particular URL I'm getting. This one, address v1 email. Here, okay. And then the content type is always application JSON. Since this is a post verb, which is a post CRUD operation, I need to pass the payload, right? So what is the payload here? As I showed you, the payload has to have an email, okay, with the email value, certain email value. And then it needs to have a validator. Validator is an array that you can pass, okay? And inside the array, you can pass syntax validator, MX validator, list detective, okay? So you can even omit few and just want to, if you just want to see the syntax is correct, you can omit these two, okay? And just pass the syntax validator. It's up to you. Having all is also good when you're learning, okay? So it's up to you. So here also, even if you see, so here I have just passed the email address, okay? बाकी में जैसे होता था, ये था for the API config, right? This one is for the API method. That's a token method. Okay. This one is for the valid email address retrieve. Okay. And for the payload, I'm just passing the email address. Okay. So here I configure the payload. And here I'm just saying, okay, whatever I passed in this attribute, this particular query parameter. Okay. You say it's a simple parameter. Okay. So in the parameter, I assigned it here and make it a payload. And this will also look like the same. This payload can also be the part of, I can simply create this payload outside somewhere and just pass is here, okay? And then you can do this, okay? So this is a validate token. So similarly, if you go to this content block, validate email, okay? The same code I have written here, fine? Now, for valid email address, which all things I require? I need data extension retrieve to retrieve all the values, simple operator, right? This particular one, access token. I don't need get user info. I don't need other things. And I need valid address. Okay. So all these attributes, let's go to the cloud page. Valid address को पूरा copy कर लेते हैं. Validate address होना चाहिए, valid नहीं, validate address, email address. Give a proper name, so it's easy to remember. So if you see this, I don't require this user info, obviously. So data extension retrieve, simple operator, access token, valid address. But this one is common for all, okay? And even if this becomes common, I can create another content block. I can paste it and एक ही बार में लेके आओ. So like just these 3 lines, okay? So these 3 lines are getting repeated again and again, right? In every block. What I could have also done is even making more modular. I didn't want to confuse you all, okay? But this can be done. So this becomes reusable, okay? So here you have to use script, okay? Always give that run at server attribute. Okay, and then wait a minute. Then here you just need to give a server, and these are reusable, and you can say API headers or something. You can give your own name. Okay, so if I have to save this, I'll save this as say it's always a header. So I'll say REST API headers, and when I'm giving the name, I'm going to store it the customer key also the same. Okay, so I created on a content block. Okay, so I can simply all these 3 line of code here, I can replace with this particular REST API headers. I can say call REST API headers, and I can replace this as well. So here REST API headers. Okay, And anyway, I can omit all this, and here I can simply say REST API header. So bringing all the content block at a one go. One line of code, boom. Okay. So this is also SFMC token, and this up to here is also same for all. For this also, I can create another content block, paste it here, bloom. Okay, similar to one line of code. Okay, and this one is the only change that you need to make. Here is to validate the address, and these two functions to retrieve the value for the method name, valid email address, which one is v2 slash v1. So address v1 valid email address. So this line only somebody has to make a change and then add this line of code. Right? So why I'm not making any changes to here, okay? Because it caches, and sometimes I myself get confused though I'm doing right. Okay, but what you can do is that for the 3 line of codes for the content block can be replaced with 1 line of content block. Okay, and you see as we are progressing with different REST APIs, these functions are becoming common for all the API, right? So the transactional API one and the SFMC token, it will keep on repeating again and again. So for this also, what I can do, okay, copy this, okay, create. I don't want to complicate it, but I'll create another content block for that as well, and call the content block instead of all this line of code. Okay, I'll show in another session. Okay, before directly go jumping here. So here also, what I could do is say common. I can give certain names. Okay, so I can give so up to this line, I can replace this and give us up some say unique name. Yeah, something. Okay, say common or something common. Body API, something. Okay, and then replace this and see. Or eventually your code will squeeze very less. Okay, it will become very less, and nobody can basically make the changes, right? Accidental changes will not be happening here. Okay, if anything they will make, maybe this spelling mistake or something that developers will do. They should only focus here what they want to call, and they want to call valid address, right? So valid address, yeah, and call the function. Okay, so where is the function? Valid address, I've stored it here, right? So this is the function. Okay, same function, access token. Now here also you'll see repetition, right? Access token till here, this particular area is same for all. This REST API is basically for all the REST API, it's also same. This area is also same. Okay, after this, the payload only differs. Okay, but this area is also same. Even this area is also same. Only this is differing. Okay, so even for get, post, put, you can create a generic function. Following me? How I'm
Yes.
making, see, I don't want to complicate, but मेरा दिमाग में जो आता है बोल देता हूँ. But this is how I basically modularize. किसी को हाथ चलाने दूंगा ही नहीं मैं अपने functions में, समझ रहे हो? Like this one which I developed, just I was showing this, just in 3 लाइन का कोड को मैं 1 लाइन में चेंज कर दिया. अब डेवलपर्स को मैं छूने दूंगा नहीं इसको. यहाँ भी सेम था. सो इसको भी मैं एक कंटेंट ब्लॉक बना के इसको रख दूंगा, किसी को चलाने दूंगा नहीं. मैं बोलूंगा सिर्फ इस एरिया पे कंसंट्रेट हुआ, तेरा जो फंक्शन है यहाँ पे लिखो, खत्म. Even what I was saying was, say when I'm creating these functions, now you'll see the same pattern is being followed. Same line of code. Access token के लिए ये, authorization के लिए ये, REST API कॉल करने के, REST API का डेटा रिट्रीव करने के लिए ये लाइन. ओके, इसको पेलोड को थोड़ा सा हटा दो नीचे. सो देन यू सी जो जिस REST API को कॉल करना है इसके लिए ये. And nowhere I'm hard coding it. Nowhere, right? And even this last 2 lines also is same for all the functions. The only thing is the payload, which I'll show you in some other session. That payload can be passed here as an optional. Okay, और जिसके पास होगा वो डालेगा, जिसके पास नहीं होगा ऑप्शनल रहेगा, नो प्रॉब्लम, इवन इफ यू पास टू एवरी वन ऑल्सो, दैट्स फाइन. So this is how, okay, anyway, valid email address का पहले डेमो दिखा देते हैं. So this my valid email address, and sorry, validate email address function. Okay, so obviously I don't require user info and all. Copy paste तुम लोग को डेमो टाइम में copy paste कर दिया, because I know this is going to work. Okay, so only thing what I was changing was this payload, that is the email address that I have to send. So this is help@email.com. Okay, yeah, this is the API config details, token details, valid email address का जो method URL है from this data extension, this one, valid email address का this one. Okay, this passed here, and just stringify and paste it. Okay, it's already published, so just validate, it will say this. This is the actual response, what I'm saying. जो ये लोग यहाँ पे what they have shown is, this is the part of the response. Okay, this is not exactly the response. Response is this. This. If you just dissect this, let's say JSON को parsing करा लो. So Visual Code is one of the best for every thing. So JSON, okay, add this, right click and factor the document. Yeah. So status code 200. Response is always a array. Okay, and then it has that item. So it says valid is not valid, valid is false. Failed validation. Out of the three syntax, okay, what were the three syntax that we had passed here? Was syntax validator, MX validator, and this detective. Out of these three, the response has to say it failed this detective validator constraint. Okay, so it is coming again this detector. So this way you can do the email validation as well. Okay, anyway, if you follow this and understand, well and good. Okay, if you don't follow, then maybe take some time. Don't try to digest everything. I have a habit of going very deep, which I try to refrain. But that's how you'll understand reusability in Marketing Cloud. Okay, let me stop this recording.